With Zillow, you're not just looking for a house. You're looking for the kitchen where you'll bake your baby's smash cake. The extra bedroom where your sister will constantly crash. You're looking for a garage where you'll park bicycles, tricycles, and every mode of transportation, except your car.
You're not just looking for a house. You're looking for a place for your life to happen. And whether buying or renting, Zillow makes it easy with smart search features, photos, and more. Zillow, find your way home.
Blog Talk Radio.
Guys, I'm gonna warn you. I'm not feeling it tonight. I normally this is the.
Hang on, let me just ask you a question. You may be Donald Duck. Does that mean you may be flightless? That flightless waterfowl would be penguins. But you may be Donald Duck. Does that mean you may be some sort of duck in the Navy who doesn't wear pants? Like, come to Hollywood, you may be pantsless. Is that what's happening there? Come on and try your luck. You may be Donald Duck. You're not wearing any pants. That's my takeaway.
I mean, sure, clearly they're referencing his pantsless status rather than, a multi-generational icon that's generated billions of dollars in revenue. Clearly.
Do you think in Pittsburgh they refer to the movie we're going to review tonight as The Dark Towel?
I don't know. I'm going to really try hard not to be overly dramatic here about this thing, but this is Damn You Hollywood, and I very rarely get my dander up about Hollywood sucking.
What?
Hang on, no. I play it up for the sake of this, and I might yell and I might, play into the theatricality a little bit here, but I very rarely, genuinely outside of this show, am deeply and profoundly aggravated by.
There are Broncos easier to control than you half the time on this show. You're yelling and screaming and carrying it on like you do.
I'll dial that back, but it's easy for me to do that because while it comes from a genuine place within me, it's dialed up. I've got the old who is it? It's the old Steve Austin bit of advice here. It's me just turned up to like 11 or 12. I mean, Mark, you and I have done other shows. You've heard me on other shows. You're well aware that there's a degree of what I do here that is exasperated and blown up for the sake of theatricality and the enjoyment of our audience.
Yeah, you can be a bit sticky at times, but aren't we all?
This movie actually, this one actually gets me a little bit. This one got under my skin. and I'll go into detail if anyone is actually interested.
Did it tickle your cockles?
You know, you're trying to. I don't know what you're trying to do here. I really don't.
Make up for lost times, and I'm a little delirious. You're just gonna have to put up with it.
Okay, so you're a little bit loopy, and I'm suppressing fanboy rage. This will be a good show. Good show, everybody.
Yeah.
Tonight on Damn You Hollywood, we are reviewing The Dark Tower, and yeah, here's my full disclosure. I'm actively suppressing, for want of a better phrase, nerd rage here. I love the Dark Tower series of books. Like, genuinely, deeply, profoundly, I love those books. Midworld was... I believe that everyone has at least one place that they go to during their adolescent years, or, you know, early preteens, adolescence, that is your escape from reality. Now,
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah, sure.
So mine was Star Wars, and you've openly made fun of me for it. Why does Star Wars matter? Why does Star Wars not matter as much as Midworld?
I mean, objectively, none of it matters.
Okay, but you're elevating Midworld to some sort of like status of, oh, this was your home away from home. This was your place to get away from it all, which I've said about Star Wars, and you've actively made fun of me for that.
I actively make fun of Star Wars, not you for feeling that way about it.
Oh, okay. So it's okay for me to wrap myself up in the blanket that is Star Wars when I'm feeling like I need to get away from it all. That's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
100%. Look, there are some people. Yeah. No. I will point out flaws within intellectual properties. I poke fun at Star Wars because it has such a large fan base that is easily irked. It's real easy. It really is. Here, let me start off because you brought this up. Episode 1 is really not all that worse than Episode 4. I hate to break it to you guys. It's really not.
You're not gonna tweak my nipples. I actively decided on the last on trial, Sean and I decided that we were going to put The Empire Strikes Back on trial because I eat sacred cows for breakfast.
I mean, The Empire Strikes Back is categorically the best Star Wars movie. Just if you look at it in an objective sense.
And I'm going to prove that it's the shittiest.
No, Mark. Look, you could if you want to prove that there's flaws within the movie, I won't disagree with you, but you will never reasonably convince anyone that it's worse than Attack of the Clones.
I'm going to try.
Go ahead and shoot for the stars. Anyway, my point here is I had two. Some people go to Star Wars, some people go to Star Trek, some people go to Earth 616. Some people relive old seasons of their favorite sports team. I'm not mocking anyone for their choices as far as this is my consumption of, something that alleviates the stress and depression of everyday life. I had two. I had Midworld and I had Mossflower. And as a fan, this movie, it was such a profound disappointment.
Wait, did you say moss-covered credenza?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I already had my dose of Chris Jericho references invading podcasts this week. Stop it.
Okay. So you did not say moss-covered credenza.
I did not. Certainly not the Saturn family moss-covered three-handled credenza.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I remember that move. I actually do.
Chris Jericho, man of 1,001 moves. What is this other place that you're talking about? Mossman from He-Man?
Mossflower. It's a series of young adult books written by a guy by the name of Brian Jakes, spelled Jacqueus.
There's no place better than Middle-earth. I just want you to know that. I don't know what all these places you're bringing up, but there's no place better than Middle-earth, except for maybe for Star Wars.
Look, I'm not getting into it. My point being that I told Mark Debating fandoms is just like you might as well debate religion. All right, it serves absolutely no purpose.
If you think I'm obnoxious tonight, you should have heard me on last night's Voltron podcast. I was worse. I was so much worse.
Hey, we got another Voltron podcast coming up. Just remember that, and you're steering that one.
In 2 days. Yep.
So my point here is I did not want to be the Where's Tom Bombadil guy. I really didn't, because I hate that guy. I don't mind criticizing this movie. If your only point is, well, they changed things, of course they changed things. You're going from one medium to another. There's changes must be made. Tom Bombadil serves no purpose. So excising him from adapting Lord of the Rings into a screen, into a film medium makes sense. I am not going to stand here and complain about, well, they changed things from the books. I don't actually care that they made changes. It's the specifics that I'm going to complain about, because the movie itself is just kind of there. All right, Mark. Before we get into this, you mentioned that Mark was absent last week due to reasons. If you want to go into those, so be it. It's your business, not mine.
Yeah, I was in the hospital again.
Okay. I mean, it's your business. It's your medical business, actually. I'm not going to broadcast it without your express written permission. So,
it's my prerogative. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. It's my prerogative.
Indeed. But you said you had a few things you wanted to say about Atomic Blonde, because that's what we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
So is there anything about that you'd like to start with before we move on to The Dark Tower?
Yeah, I mean, of all the movies that we covered this summer, some of which I was not available for because I was sick or whatever, the one that really upset me was this last one, Atomic Blonde. I really enjoyed Atomic Blonde on a certain level. Because, and I'm glad you brought up when you did your solo show there, there was definitely an element of, well, the CIA knew the FBI was setting up the DEA, because that's certainly my feeling. But this was one of those movies where I could appreciate the sizzle, and forgive the fact there wasn't much stake. This was a movie that was high on presentation and low on any kind of originality or, interesting plot. I mean, first of all, I loved Charlize Theron in this. Her performance in Atomic Blonde was so good, I was doing imitations of her at work. Like, if anyone asked me a question, I would just go, obviously, and walk away from them. I'm obnoxious. She was so great. So did you make contact with the French operative? Obviously. Yep. It was within minutes. My wife wanted to punch me after that, and with good reason. I loved the look of the movie. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I used to go dancing in, what became sort of a modernized German industrial. Obviously, I didn't go dancing in the 80s. I was a fucking child. But in the 90s and early 2000s, I used to go dancing all the time, and I went dancing in places that were meant to look like the places that this movie shows you from the 80s. Goth German industrial dance clubs. So it was fun to see those things. I love this. Obviously, the soundtrack I fell in love with instantaneously. If there's nothing else, if you took the plot out of this movie and you just did videos of Charlize Theron beating the fuck out of people to Depeche Mode, I'd have been happy. It was awesome. I got a little bored, and it might have just been, again, my medical condition at the time. I started to get a little sleepy. around the time that Spyglass dies. Spoiler alert. But overall, I enjoyed Charlize Theron. I enjoyed James McAvoy. The little twist ending at the end, she kills him. I guess he was Satchel, but she was also a deep cover CIA operative. So they were both sort of not who they said they were.
No, she was
fine.
Satchel.
She was Satchel. Okay. See, I was a little confused by that because I remember him saying, he's like, that's how you're going to make it all work. You're going to pin Satchel on me. And I'm like, but aren't you Satchel?
No,
I was a little confused
he's not.
there.
He was just
Okay.
an overly stressed, slightly gone native MI6 agent.
Yeah, I thought James McAvoy did a really good job with his role. I did enjoy his first meeting up with Charlize Theron. It's like, that's sort of Eddie Izzard, Cockney. Don't shoot, I've got your shoe. Makes me laugh every time I see it. Overall, I enjoyed Atomic Blonde. It's one of those movies where it's kind of a, what do you call it? Oh gosh, what's the phrase where you like something that's no good for you?
A guilty pleasure.
That's the one. It's a guilty pleasure. I enjoyed the look of the thing, the feel of it, the performances. The only thing I didn't really enjoy was the actual plot itself, which I thought was a little bit plotting and a little bit, oh gosh, I don't have words tonight. Well, you can't go to the bathroom. Constipated. The plot was a bit. Thank you. I thought the plot was a bit constipated. You want to weigh in for 50 words or less, or are you content to hear my thoughts?
I said my piece last week.
Okay. Are you surprised by any of what I said?
Nah.
You pretty much knew that that's where I'd land.
Give or take.
Ask me a question. Ask me any question.
Why is the sky blue?
No. Like a did you do this?
I am not setting you
is...
up for that.
Set me up, damn it.
No.
Obviously. I'm gonna do that the rest of the podcast now. Hope you're satisfied.
Let's go with that.
All right. So the Dark Tower, yeah.
Yeah. Let's jump into this. All right, Mark. I'm the one who insisted this be on the schedule. I feel I owe you an apology.
You do. That's all right.
I'm sorry I insisted this was on the schedule.
You know what's funny about this? I went to go see this where at the same time my wife took the kids to go see the Emoji Movie. The kids had a fine time. They thought the Emoji Movie was fantastic. It was written for about their level, 3 and 6. My wife, on the other hand, thought this was the dumbest thing ever captured on film. And we were having a serious debate over who saw the worst movie, the Dark Tower or the Emoji Movie.
Mark, you saw Transformers this year. You win that argument every time.
Okay, then.
Also, no, the Emoji Movie is, like, exponentially worse.
I don't know. I didn't see the Emoji Movie, so I can't...
There's issues of craft with this film, specifically writing and editing. But it is not nearly as insultingly pandering as the Emoji Movie.
All right, I'll give you that much.
And it's not as bad as Transformers: The Last Night, which was, yeesh.
And still not making money.
I know. Despicable Me 3 becomes the third highest grossing movie of the year worldwide. Transformers is like, please come see me.
Yeah, the Despicable Me 3 is now ahead of Guardians of the Galaxy and Wonder Woman. I no longer want to live on this planet with you people.
You who, like, crow the glories of capitalism and who every year, for months on end, when I pointed out how bad various Transformers movies were, your response was, well, it made money.
Yep. Because
And
I
Despicable
don't
Me 3 is
understand.
even bad.
I don't understand why quality movies that are made for mass audiences still can't top the Despicable Me fucking franchise. Between Minions and the Despicable Me proper, there's no knocking that hustle. No matter what anyone does, it's frightening.
Hey, Mark, you want to know something else about the Despicable Me franchise?
What?
It is the highest-grossing animated film franchise of all time.
I wish I were dead. Really? With everything coming from Pixar, with the greatness that
No,
is the
hang on. It does not. No. Not all Pixar counts.
Okay.
It has not made more than Pixar's history as a studio. It has made more than each individual Pixar franchise.
No, but I'm not comparing. Whoever, I can't remember now the name of the studio that does Despicable Me, but I'm not comparing
Illumination
Universal to Illumination. Illumination. Oh God, someone punch me. Obviously. I am not going to compare Illumination to Pixar. That's a wild and woolly comparison. But comparing Despicable Me to like Toy Story, where Toy Story is clearly the better franchise, and Despicable Me has made more money than that. Ugh.
Well, to be fair, Toy Story 1 and 2 came out, how long ago?
Doesn't matter. People should go back and rewatch them. Go to a theater, give them $10, and go home and watch Toy Story.
They'll still because they'll still have to put the $10 towards something that is actually showing.
So can we talk about The Dark Tower? I want to go to bed.
I don't know. I was kind of looking forward to torturing you more with inane facts that should play into your capitalist leanings, but instead seem to annoy you.
I just don't understand that. Despicable Me is a fine franchise, but how does it make this much money? What is the attraction? I don't get it. Someone do a sociological paper on why people show up.
Would you hang on? I can actually tell you parts of this. I can genuinely answer this question for you in a few parts.
I had dreams that we were going to get done in 60 minutes, and I've already added 30 minutes to this show. Please, let's talk about The Dark Tower.
Hang on, I'll be brief. One, Despicable Me plays worldwide, easily. Two, it's a family movie that adults can enjoy, kids can enjoy, and, look, family movies sell more tickets if they're moderately successful because someone has to take the kids.
Right. Agreed. Third,
the Despicable Me franchise has only one entry that is kind of ho-hum, and that's the Minions movie.
And that made $1 billion.
And it
did.
$1 billion.
Hey, $1 billion.
Not disagreeing with you at all. But you've got a family-aimed franchise that has like buckets and buckets of goodwill with its audience that appeals to pretty much everybody. My stepmom's father loves the Minions.
Ugh.
Not the Minions movie. Hang on, not the Minions movie necessarily, but the Minions as characters.
I get it, just the Minions. Screen Junkies points that out all the time, that, your aunt on Facebook loves the Minions.
Yes!
But all I'm going to say is...
Everybody likes these movies.
Okay. All I'm going to say is this. Thank God, Star Wars still has a chance to become the number one movie in the world. Number one and number two movies this year, Star Wars and Beauty and the Beast. Which, shame, Hollywood. For shame.
That's supposed to be my line tonight when I talk about butchering a perfectly good IP.
Well, go ahead and do it then, obviously.
All right. Again, I insisted this be on the schedule.
Obviously.
I was mostly hoping this wouldn't suck. Alternatively,
Obviously.
I was going to start my... Okay. You can do that every 3 sentences. No more, no less.
Oh, damn it. You're putting controls on me. Damn.
And they're reasonable, too, so you feel compelled to follow them.
Okay. Obviously.
There's your one. Now I get 3 more. The other part I had kind of hoped for this was that it would set up a bit of my personal revenge on you sticking Jumanji and Geostorm back on the schedule. Instead, I'm going to have to wait for it, which
that's all right. I'm taking a girlfriend with me to go see it.
I'm looking forward to hearing your reaction to that because the trailers look promising.
I'm looking forward to going to see it with one of my many work girlfriends. Which, by the way, so apparently one work girlfriend is now jealous that I'm hanging out with another girl from work. I've told them both I'm married. They are both well aware of this, that we are all just friends here, and, I just happen to work with, like, a ratio of 100 to 1, women to men, so, and I hang out with people who have kids. We do play dates. But somehow or other, I've managed to make one work girlfriend jealous that I hung out with another work girlfriend, and then she had to explain to me the rules as to what I'm allowed to talk about, what I'm not allowed to talk about, and she actually said, "Did you take her to our place for lunch?" So let me explain that real quick. We went to the indoor park here in Tampa, and then we went to a sandwich shop because it was like 5 minutes away. And that somehow or other became our place. We went once. And no, I did not take this other girl to Wright's gourmet sandwich shoppy. We went to Beef O'Brady's. This is my life, Robert Winfree.
And people wonder why I eschew social contact. I'm just saying.
My actual life doesn't give a shit about any of this. Doesn't care one way or the other.
You clearly married the right one, then.
Yes. Absolutely.
All right, so just real briefly, again, I insisted this be on the schedule. Did you have any... my expectations were seriously tempered by, A, years and years of this thing being in development, and that so rarely works out well for a film. B, looking up Akiva Goldsman's track record and subsequently wondering why this individual gets hired and not beaten with, like, fish on a daily basis. And then just... So my point being, did you have any expectations going into this, or did you go in essentially a blank slate? Hey, get out of there.
A blank slate. Obviously. A blank slate. I've never read any Stephen King book ever because books are for burning, and I've never really been a big Stephen King fan because I don't like horror and don't like being scared, which is going to make going to see it real fun for me. But I knew nothing of this series. I figured Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba would act well, and that's really all I knew about the movie.
Alrighty. I'm surprised. There's plenty of Stephen King material that isn't strict horror.
I mean, I've seen plenty of Stephen King movies. I watched the one with the Lighthouse. I think they aired that one on TV. It might have been like a mini series or some shit.
Storm of the Century?
Maybe. I remember. There's been a couple of like dramas that are Stephen King. The Stand By Me is a Stephen King, isn't it?
Yes. So's Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. Okay. I've seen both of those.
Yeah, there's a lot of Stephen King that is not actually horror in the conventional "I wish to scare you" sense.
I know I've never read any of his books, but I know I've watched a bunch of Stephen King movies. Let's see here. You go do your thing. I'm going to look at his adaptations.
That's a long list. All right. Well, here comes the plot synopsis as best I can give it. We open with a scene of the Dark Tower, which is, in this version of the story, the edifice at the center of all creation that exudes a barrier of energy that protects things from outside the universe that protects us from things outside the universe. Any Lovecraft enthusiast can tell you that things outside the universe are definitely not good. It is under attack by the Man in Black, Walter. As a brief aside, because I don't have a whole lot to say about the movie itself, I really like that between McConaughey's acting here and Breaking Bad, the name Walter has been essentially taken back from purely being a nerd name. That's all I'm so good for that. Good for that name coming back into style. Anyway, Walter is assaulting the tower by siphoning the psychic energy from children and violently projecting it at the tower, striking it, trying to get it to fall down, like you do. This is all being seen psychically by Jake Chambers, a kid living in New York who is troubled by nightmares and visions, and he's slowly coming apart at the seams as he constantly sees the Man in Black, the assault on the tower. He starts seeing a bit of our hero, the gunslinger, Roland Deschain. His mother and stepfather are distressed by his rapidly unraveling psyche. They try to have him sent to a special school, but turns out said special school is actually a front for the people trying to bring down the tower, where they screen actual psychics from just people who are sad and want attention. And actual psychics are sent to Walter to be siphoned and used up and trying to bring down the tower. Jake escapes, finds his way through a technological portal that transports him between worlds, dimensions, however you quite want to phrase it. He lands in the middle of a desert, and his first response is, "Oh, good." Not even sarcastically. No, you just, without supplies, got dropped in the middle of a desert. I mean, I understand that you're happy, you're not actually going insane, but he randomly chooses the correct direction to go to follow Roland, who he encounters. Roland doesn't care about the kid. His sole focus in life is finding Walter and exacting vengeance because Walter has systematically murdered everyone close to him. But Jake knows where he is, so Roland decides to utilize Jake as a bit of a compass to point him in the correct direction. They go to a village where they can get Jake's dreams interpreted, because Jake is from what they refer to as Keystone Earth. Roland's from Midworld. Jake doesn't know his way around. So they find a local guide who can interpret his visions and tell Roland exactly where he's going. Meanwhile, the Man in Black, Walter, finds that Jake is causing a bit of trouble. He also discovers that Jake is an incredibly powerful psychic. They refer to it as the Shine, direct reference to The Shining and Dr. Sleep by extension. And he is powerful enough that, in effect, if Walter can get his hands on him, he can siphon off enough energy just from Jake to bring down the tower with just him. I'll deal with that later. So Walter's now looking for him. Roland's trying to find Walter. We get a bit of an action sequence. They wind up back on Midworld because the fastest way to... They wind up back on Keystone Earth, actually, excuse me. Because the fastest way to actually get to this place of breaking, which is what you'd refer to it as in the books, is by going back to New York and then utilizing a portal from their base there to access that location, rather than walking 6 months over land. So they can power up a portal. They head to New York, where there's a few moments of comedy because Roland doesn't fit in. Jake, as you do, wants to go see his mom and stepfather, mostly his mom. His stepfather's kind of a douche. Only to find out that Walter had already been there in his process of trying to track Jake down. He killed both of them because he's an evil bastard. Jake is most of this time trying to get Roland out of his strict vengeance mindset and towards, no, really, it doesn't matter if you kill Walter, you've got to save, all of existence. And Roland's just too beaten down and world weary to care a whole lot at the moment. They wind up they bond like you do. They get set up to assault this location, the base that they have in New York. Jake gets captured because that's what happens in most movies like this. Walter's able to take him back through the portal, strap him into the machine, and get ready to, nuke the tower. Roland just isn't having any of that shit and goes on a fairly impressive rampage. He and the Man in Black have a final confrontation where Roland is ultimately successful. He saves Jake. He saves the tower because, at least in Star Wars, they actually had to find plans and had it make sense that a single photon torpedo could blow up the whole Death Star. Here he just randomly shoots not even the power generator that just destroys the entire thing and essentially saves the tower. But because there's always darkness, the tower's always going to be under threat. Jake, with nothing left on Keystone Earth, winds up going with Roland back to Midworld, and roll credits. Mark, did I skip over anything that you wanted to touch over there plot-wise before we get into this?
No, sir. It's fine, just the way you did it.
All righty.
Here's
where would you like to start?
Look, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I thought Idris Elba was fine. I thought Matthew McConaughey was fine. Neither one of them really stood out, but neither one of them was particularly bad. The other thing I'll tell you is I knew nothing about this IP, so I went into it just kind of okay, entertain me. And other than having some nitpicky questions, like if the Dark Tower is the connective tissue of all the universes, are there gunslingers on more than one world? Why are there only gunslingers on this one? Why? I had a whole lot of questions, but I was like, who cares? Ultimately, I was uninterested and bored. I thought I didn't think the plot was very interesting. It's yet again, a child goes into a crazy universe, has to rescue the hero from himself, who's, sort of downtrodden and, down on his luck, against the madman who theoretically, I don't know why he wants to take down the Dark Tower. He has Purple Man powers. He can just tell people stop breathing. Like, and then that was another thing. It's like how he was like, oh, well, Idris Elba has this nasty habit of being able to resist my powers. How? Why? What is happening here? So I just thought the whole thing was lazy, and I couldn't wait for it to be over.
Yeah, let me start off with the good. The acting is actually good. McConaughey and Elba and the kid who plays Jake, whose name I can't remember. Especially considering how poor elements of the writing are, they do a good job, and I think they deserve credit for that. A couple of the action sequences are perfectly, again, Roland tearing through the, henchman in the Dixie Pig was pretty awesome. His final confrontation with Walter fell a tad flat for me, but... Okay,
hang on one second. That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. So he's got a pair of six-shooters, he's in a room full of people with machine guns, and they don't cut him to shreds.
Hey!
I know.
How was Luke Skywalker able to stand in the middle, absolutely in the middle, without cover, shooting at Darth Vader and nobody touches him? We're really going to choose this moment to, dissect... He's not a Jedi at that point. He's a fuckboy.
He's a fuckboy. What scene is this that you're saying he's a fuckboy?
Right after Vader axes Ben. He's standing literally out in the open
Oh, the stormtroopers are shit shots.
Here's my point. Like, we're going to choose this moment to, like, dissect faceless grunts being terrible shots?
Sorry. The difference is Luke shot back with the stormtrooper's own rifle, so at least it was even. He has a pair of stick shooters, and he's going up against people with machine guns, and they don't cut him down immediately. It was horseshit.
If you say so.
You can feel free to disagree, but I do. I didn't buy it.
That's okay.
I don't know. Here's the thing, because you brought up Luke Skywalker, and yes, he's not a Jedi at that point, but he has Jedi potential. They don't do a great job of explaining what makes a gunslinger a gunslinger.
That's fair.
No.
That's completely fair. Like, one of the things that actually works in the novel's favor. And this is, I swore, this is not about, like, how dare they change things, but you brought up a point that needs to be addressed. They actually, Roland has both flashbacks and actually tells Jake a lot about the training he receives that goes into making him, able to do what he's able to do. And they completely excised that in favor of, well, he's a superhero, so he can do whatever he wants.
Right, and that was kind of my point. If you're going to tell me that he's a Jedi, then explain to me how he's a Jedi and how he's able to go through a room full of people and shoot them with six shooters when they've got machine guns. I'm willing to buy magic, but you have to tell me you have to explain the magic to me. You can't just say, well, he's magical, and that's the end of it. They don't even really do that. They don't say the gunslingers are magical in any way. They're just gunslingers. So he's a cowboy. Terrific.
That's one of the major failings is they don't actually go through and explain what's so special about gunslingers, because I don't want to get into the whole mythology of it, because that's irrelevant in the sense that it wasn't brought up in the movie. It's an open plot point, and it deserves to be criticized as such.
Hear, hear. Obviously.
All right.
I feel like every time I say obviously, you look down at your wrist and start to think.
Look, if I'm going out, I'm not leaving it to chance like I would with a wrist. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Move on.
All right. Where was I? All right. As far as other, I honestly don't even quite know where to begin with this. As far as this is a property that has been, for those of you who don't know the actual history here, this was first talked about as being adapted into a film in 2006, 2007. I'd really have to double check. But this is a property that has been in development hell for, again, about a decade, if not more than. And different people have been attached in different roles. Initially, J.J. Abrams was going to direct it. He wound up that didn't quite work out. Ron Howard was going to do it, and they actually had a kind of a schedule set up where they would do a movie, a season of television, movie, season of television, movie. And that would, which I honestly think was both really inventive and probably the best way to go about telling the story. And when Ron Howard was attached, I think they had Javier Bardem signed on to play Roland, which would have been awesome, because Javier Bardem is generally awesome. I can't forgive Ron Howard, though, because with him came Akiva Goldsman, who I barely... I wonder why someone has not pushed him out of a window, genuinely. I mean, the guy wrote Batman and Robin and somehow got work after that. I don't understand. The world just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, yeah. Batman and Robin is great.
Mark, don't.
I throw my hair back and forth. I throw my hair back and forth.
You don't have hair.
This is very true.
And this movie, like, some movies come out of, like, development hell and actually are half decent. This movie looks like a film that was, like, in development hell. It's poorly edited. It's poorly written. And it really never had a shot as long... It seems like every fault that was built in from, like, the previous generation of let's try to adapt this, rather than being removed or starting from scratch, they just decided, well, I can build on this. I mean, this movie, needed another 30 minutes. This is a 90-minute movie. Like 90 and change, like 97, I think. And for some reason, like, you couldn't build another 20 minutes in to actually get backstory where you become attached to the characters. I mean, we're not talking about, like, Kill Bill here, where Miramax told Tarantino, no, you cannot have a 3.5-hour movie. Right? This is 90 minutes. Give it another 20. Let's actually get Roland's backstory, which is interesting. It can also explain part of why gunslingers are so awesome. You know, their role in society, such as it were. And it's all just absent. Honestly, I think the biggest mistake they made, the first foremost biggest mistake, was telling this from Jake's point of view. I don't understand that decision. I just don't. I mean, and it's not that the kid's not a good actor. Again, he does a very serviceable, if not admirable, job given the material he's given, but it was just not the way I feel that should have gone. There's a whole reversal of the dichotomy. And this is purely for comparative purposes. This is not me saying how dare they change things. All right? If you want to reverse this, fine, but it has to serve a purpose. The whole point of the first book is Roland chasing Walter. Explicitly. He is actually chasing him and getting closer. In this, Walter is off jaunting between worlds while Roland aimlessly wanders the desert. I mean, I'm okay with you altering elements of this, but it has to make sense. I mean, since I brought up Lord of the Rings already, Aragorn's whole character arc over the course of the films, where he starts out, nervous about his lineage, unwilling to accept kingdom, so on, that whole bit is completely absent from the books. They manufactured that to give him something to do during the course of the movie. Fine. I get that, and I'm not complaining about it. It actually makes it better in some respects. In this case, you just reverse things so that you can spend more time with Jake for no real reason. As a fan of the books, this was a complete and utter disappointment. And if I had gone into this blind, it's a moderately serviceable 90-minute action movie. I don't really understand what they were really hoping to achieve here, because you're only going to piss off fans with not just the fact that you changed things, because there's always going to be fans of source material that are pissed when you change things, such as life. But the way you changed things and the purpose to which you changed them, the things that you took from different books, just actually, they've actively shot themselves in the foot as far as making a second movie. Because what's the purpose? You're going to have to manufacture something or introduce a whole new set of characters or a whole new circumstance. And it didn't need to be that hard. Like, this whole process just didn't need to be as hard as it was for them, apparently. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to do most of that, so my apologies.
Obviously.
See, it didn't even really work there. Like, what's obvious? What about that is obvious? That I either reneged on a previous promise or that I was apologizing for it.
You reneged on a previous promise.
Fair enough.
Obviously.
No. See, that doesn't even work. You're reaching. You're just really trying to force it into situations where it's not warranted now.
I like forcing things into places they don't belong.
I'm sure your wife would agree.
No butt stuff. All right. Can we move this along?
Yeah, unless you have anything else you want to add. I mean,
I have nothing. This is one of those where I was happy to do the podcast because I enjoy talking to you, and I was really annoyed that I missed last week. But this subject matter, I could care less about.
Yeah, I almost feel like I need to get it like a one-off podcast later this week when I can just vent my frustration about this whole process.
There you go. Turn your camera on and yell into it. You can be like every other person on YouTube.
No cameras. I have a face for radio.
Obviously.
See, there it works.
Yeah.
No,
right,
if you don't have anything else to add, I've said my piece here. Oh wait, one more thing. One more thing. I promise it's the last thing. Last thing. And this you wouldn't get this because you're not a Stephen King fan, so not intended as a shot there. If you had just minimized the tedious references to other bits of King's work that were peppered throughout this movie, and given the actual characters a chance to do stuff, the movie itself might have been better as a whole. I'm not sure we needed just throwing all of those references to other works in. I'm not sure it was necessary.
Everywhere you look, everywhere is a heart. Here we go, on to everywhere you look. Sorry.
I mean, you're not kidding. I mean, the therapist has a picture of the Overlook Hotel on his desk, which is kind of cool. Jake's friend plays with a car from the titular car in Christine. There's a reference to Needful Things. There's a reference to It. I mean, obvious reference to The Shining apart from the Overlook, referring to psychic powers as shining. There's a reference to Cujo, actually. There's a reference to Needful Things.
Was there a reference to Maximum Overdrive?
No. Why? Why would there be?
I don't know. Now I want to see Matthew McConaughey in a Big Mac truck just screaming down the road. He tries to run over the gunslinger.
No. That's not how Maximum Overdrive worked, actually.
Oh, I've never actually seen it.
Stephen King directed it, and he refers to it as an idiot movie.
Awesome. Seems right up my alley.
You could certainly watch it. It's your life. How you spend your time is entirely up to you.
Nostalgia Critic did a video on that. I may just limit it to that. All right, I'm hitting buttons.
Yeah, let's move on to the money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money. Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
I was a little late on that. All right. On a budget of $60 million, this thing has only made about $29 million and change. Hot dog. Right now, as things stand worldwide. See, in America, the domestic grosses go like this: Beauty and the Beast, Wonder Woman, Guardians, Spider-Man, and Despicable Me is number 5. But then you get to worldwide, with Indians and Chinese Chinamen and Europeans and such, and the whole landscape changes.
The general world doesn't have the liberal guilt that's being foisted on America.
So it goes Beauty and the Beast, Fate of the Furious, Despicable Me, which, by the way, the top 5 movies, 2 are Disney, 2 are Universal, 1 Warner Brothers. 1.
No, they're pinning a lot of their hopes on Justice League.
Anyway, Despicable Me, Guardians, Wonder Woman. Coming at number 6, another Disney movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, which, despite terrible reviews, despite us giving it terrible reviews, despite it being a terrible movie, is making money. There'll be more. Spider-Man Homecoming, Sony's hit, thanks to Disney, $674 million. It topped Logan. And Transformers: The Last Night coming in at number 9, sitting at a dismal for this movie, $583 million. Hey, remember when we predicted Transformers: The Last Night was going to make $1 billion easy? Oops.
Well, we did not anticipate the fatigue that had set in for that property, and more importantly, we did. I'll say this: much as I thought Age of Extinction sucked, and it did.
No, it didn't.
If The Last Night had been as bad as Age of Extinction instead of worse, it still might have had an outside chance.
And coming in at number 10, Kong Skull Island at $566 million. The top 20 looks like this: The Boss Baby, The Mummy. The Mummy's actually made it up to $402 million, which, despite it having all kinds of problems, actually makes it profitable. So I guess we're going to make, there's still more of these movies listed on the calendar. So, I mean, I've heard 2 things about this. I've heard the Dark Universe is in trouble, but the calendar still has movies. There's still A Creature from the Black Lagoon. There's still some other ones slated for 2018 and 2019, so we'll see what happens. But
hopefully they just make
more...
them instead of trying to connect them with the Dark Universe. God.
The Dark
I can't
Universe.
even say it. I can't even say it. It's that stupid.
The Dark Universe. 50 Shades Darker at 13. Triple X at 15. The Great Wall at 16. Dunkirk actually broke into the top 20. It's made $316 million at this point. That's highly profitable. It needed to make $200 million or more. It has, so good for Dunkirk, which has a shot at sweeping the Oscars. Resident Evil and Lego Movie, and then finally something from India. Cars 3, which should have been a $1 billion movie.
No, it shouldn't.
Given its predecessors and given it's the fact that the Pixar movie and its
none
Cars,
of its predecessors made that much money.
Well, either way, it's stuck at about $286 million, making it one of the least profitable movies in the Pixar pantheon. War for the Planet of the Apes is sitting at about $279 million on a $150 million budget. It's not yet even profitable for all of its ballyhoo. Some other ones of note: Alien Covenant has finally ended its run. You can now watch that on demand, so that's done. It on an almost $100 million budget. I'm rounding up. Needed to make more than $200 million. It did, but barely. Worldwide, $232 million. That's kind of a miss for Fox, even though
Serious
it
miss.
was. Yeah, I mean, when you now that's just factoring in like production costs or whatever, and marketing. But you figure
not marketing.
You also have to.
I don't think that includes marketing.
Okay, so then you have to include marketing, which there was a huge marketing campaign for this.
Yeah.
Not to mention take from the theater chains. So this didn't make any money, for what it was supposed to be, for where it was positioned. Alien Covenant did not do very well. And we'll cover more of this next week when we do our summer wrap-up. But I just wanted to go over a couple of the ones that we watched. Baywatch bombed. Ghost in the Shell bombed. King Arthur bombed. Power Rangers bombed. We have not had a very good year in terms of franchise movies. Atomic Blonde's currently sitting at $46 million on a budget of $30. Poor gal. Hopefully that will...
It'll wind up okay. Worldwide, it'll probably be profitable.
Yeah, I mean, it's got some time in the theaters to pick up some scattered dollars here or there. Next week, the big release is The Nut Job 2. We're not reviewing it. We're done. I'm out. I've had enough. We need a break. Oh, real quick. The Emoji Movie on a $50 million budget has currently made $64 million. So that's probably going to end up being profitable for Sony. Sony seems to do pretty well with its animated features. They make them cheap. They make them cheap. They crank them out, and the shit makes money. Not Despicable Me money, but it makes money. So,
well, they have to be. I mean, they have to be funding their existence somehow because their track record is terrible over the last 4 years.
Yeah, they can't seem to. I mean, I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but if you look at Sony's. Oh gosh, let me do it by this year. Let's try that again. 2017.
Last year too. Sony's currently ranked number 5 with a 9.5 market share. That's behind Disney with almost 20%, Universal with a little less but still almost 20%, Warner Brothers at 15%, and 20th Century Fox at 13%. And then there's that steep drop to Sony at 9.5% market share, and I think it's I mean, its best movie was the one that fucking Marvel did for him, Spider-Man. Yeah.
And in second, third, and fourth place, Baby Driver, The Emoji Movie, and Smurfs. So there you have it. In their top 5, 2 of them are animated features. 2 of them.
Baby Driver will be decently profitable at least, but yeah, Sony says completely missed the boat on big budget releases for the last 4 years or so. Life bombed, Underworld bombed, Passengers bombed. I mean, it's just one after another. So, we'll come back next week with some more with an overall picture of where we are this summer. I'll tell you what, if you're a studio head and you're looking at where things landed this year, this was not a great summer. There were a few hits and a lot of misses. Just a lot of shit that got thrown at the wall, and a lot of it did not stick. So we'll break it all down for you next week. In the meantime... Here's a preview before we jump into me screaming randomly at the universe that nothing makes sense anymore. Here's a quick preview of next week's show. Taking fan bases for granted. Because believe me, we'll touch on that. Here's another sneak peek at next week's show. Thanks for that. It could also sound like this. We actually need the Professor Farnsworth, I don't want to live on this planet anymore. Well, get it done, sir. Lastly, here's a quick preview of next week's show.
Oh, it's a living, huh? Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Hang on.
What the hell was that? That's a supercut of me doing the I believe it's the Humanoids, where one of the characters talks like blah, 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 blah. So, and we kept doing that throughout the entire show when we were doing one of the DC Hanna-Barbera comics. Might have been Wacky Raceland, now that I think about it. I don't even know what the Humanoids are, so okay. Haven't we been through this before? I don't know. I genuinely do not know if I have ever said to you, I have no frame of reference for that. Oh, no, you and I discussed it too, because I told you I was going to do a Thundar the Barbarian versus the Inhumanoids, or the Humanoids. And I don't know who either of those are. I sent you pictures. I'm sure you tried. All right. Are you ready? No!
God, please, no! 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 No!
All right, it has to be the Inhumanoids then. Yeah, no, yes, Inhumanoids. Images. Nope, that's not it. Fuck, what were their names then? This is really going to bug me now.
It really doesn't matter. Hanna-Barbera cartoons were just universally awful.
Hanna-Barbera. Oh, fuck this. I'll do it later. Oh.
Didn't they have like a Nessie or something like that? A sea serpent?
Maybe. Humanoids cartoon. The Herculoids. That was their name. It was the Herculoids.
Whatever.
You ready?
I already did the bit.
It's more than obvious. Jason Garazio.
For the record,
Insider.
everyone, this thing has like 18% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I'm only reading a few of these because I want to be done with this.
Yeah.
It's more than obvious Sony wasn't looking to really make a movie for the fans of the books, which is just plain bizarre.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Angie Hahn of Mashable. The thin characterizations might have been mitigated by livelier dialogue, but there's no poetry or personality in any of these words. Angie Hahn, you have forgotten the face of your father.
No, that's a relatively fair. I mean, the characterization actually comes from the acting, not the dialogue, which is sad. It's really sad. You know, McConaughey and Elba and Taylor, I think it's Tom Taylor, have to carry so much weight because they're being buried under the inadequacies of the editing and writing.
I wonder if it would make more sense to read the fresh reviews.
I don't know. Hang on. Related to that point, while you decide which direction we want to go with this. Stephen King's what makes Stephen King an effective writer is actually character. I don't know why this is so difficult for a lot of people to grasp. The reason Stephen King stories scare you is because two things. A, his world building, he's able to create a world that feels very much like the real world. And B, he creates characters, in some cases, painfully realistic ones, that you can relate to and understand, so that when terrible things start happening, you actually do care about the people they're happening to. And in this instance, they just fundamentally stripped away the essence of what makes Stephen King a successful author apropos of nothing. Like, there's not even a legitimate substitute of balls-to-the-wall action, which would have been stupid in and of itself, but I at least could understand the thinking.
Cam Williams of Barrett News. The best sci-fi western since Cowboys and Aliens.
That's probably true. Even though it's not really science fiction or a western, but...
Anne Lee Ellington of
Go ahead.
Anne Lee Ellington of LA Biz. Some rather efficient world building of an epic universe protected from the forces of darkness, but a titular structure with charismatic performances.
You are only correct in your reference to the performances. The world building here is actually one of my biggest problems. I mean, come on. 20 more minutes of exposition gives you both characters that are more meaningful and a more fleshed out world. Instead, none of the above.
Matthew DeKinder, Suburban Journals of St. Louis. The Dark Tower is just interesting enough to be worth checking out, and quite frankly was probably too weird to be given the slow roll and turned into an 8-movie franchise. Get him, Winfree.
Yes, because, okay, first of all, it doesn't have to be 8 movies. Like, this is, first and foremost, let's get that out of the way. There are 8 books, sure. There's picking and choosing and adapting and moving things around. You don't need a full 8 movies. Second, At what point did we cross the threshold of too weird here? I mean, can we consider for a moment the franchises that are currently propping up most major studios? I mean, really, because you don't think there's a lot of very, very weird stuff that takes place in the MCU? You don't find a lot of weirdness to be had over with the DC stuff? I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean is just fundamentally a bizarre property. This is not too weird. The problem is, I don't think the filmmakers actually embraced the fact that this is a weird movie. The audience will go along with you. They'll go along with intergalactic robots that somehow lose and gain mass at a whim. You really think they wouldn't go with, dimension hopping here? Come on.
Brian Lowry of CNN.com. The Dark Tower avoids the lowest rungs of that ladder. Taken on its terms, it's hardly a disaster, delivering moments of fun on a basic level.
That's about right.
Let's see. Christian Toto of HollywoodToto.com. Stephen King's expansive saga gets a 95-minute cheat sheet gussied up as a franchise starter.
Yep, that's relatively accurate. Hey, where's Old Man Morgenstern? I want to hear from him on this.
Matt Morgenstern? I can give you Scott Mendelson.
Let's go there and then find Joe. Find Old Man Joe. Get off my lawn.
Scott Mendelson of Forbes. The second half is better than the first half, but this isn't remotely the sprawling epic that fans arguably deserve.
I'm not entirely sure that's accurate. I mean, the second half, yes, this is not in any way, shape, form, or fashion an epic film. But I'm not entirely sure the second half is quantifiably more enjoyable. A lot of that comes down to what you enjoy in film.
Katie Walsh of the Tribune News Service, top critic. Inconsistent, incoherent, and often cheesy.
See, that's just not true. Okay, the cheesy part, yes. I mean, the whole ending. Yeah, it was painful. But I don't think there's an issue of coherence here. I mean, they go to great lengths to spell out elements of it.
All right, I found Old Man Roger Moore of
All
Movie
right,
Nation.
let's go there.
1 out of 4 stars. So much for the Dark Tower franchise.
I mean, okay, here's my thing about that. A, it's not necessarily completely dead in the water depending on Sony getting desperate and, pitching a season of television, which could revitalize it. 2, that's your intro. Like, that's the headline that's supposed to get people to actually click on your article.
Yeah, he's way lazy, but it gets better. David Kaplan of Kaplan versus Kaplan, to borrow from another current release, meh.
You don't even.
He's.
Does this guy not even know where meh comes from? I mean, Mark, I assume you do. Please tell me you understand the genesis of the M''EH as a word. Please.
Sure.
You don't, do you? You have no idea.
I mean, I know what meh is. I use it constantly.
Again, this jackass is referencing another terrible film when meh actually comes from the good years of The Simpsons.
So I'm not finding Joe Morgenstern anywhere.
Well, maybe he died.
No, don't say that.
Why not? He was old. Maybe his editor of maybe some unpaid intern heard us talk and went to their editor and expressed that, we should probably not have this guy review movies unless he expresses interest in them because he's giving us a bad name. Maybe he got fired. That would be even better.
All right, this is the last one. John DeFore of Hollywood Reporter, top critic. Heaven knows the books offer more invention than could fit into one feature film, but in their effort to introduce newcomers to this world, the filmmakers make the saga's contents look not archetypal, but generic and cobbled together.
Yeah, I have a hard time disagreeing with any of that.
All right. As I said, we are done reviewing movies for the time being. Robert and I will get together with Robert Cooper theoretically this Thursday. We'll review season 3A, part 1 of Voltron, Legendary Defender, and then part 2 is coming out sometime in October, or season 4 as they're calling it for some strange reason. On September 1st, the poorly reviewed Inhumans ABC television show will hit IMAX theaters. Theoretically, we're going to go see that in the IMAX theaters, and then we'll review it here on Damn You Hollywood before the series proper airs on television. And then we'll be back for It, which debuts September 8th. So right now, in the month of September, we're looking at Inhumans and It, and that's all for Damn You Hollywood. In the month of October, we've got the new Blade Runner, the Geostorm, and Saw. In the month of November, we've got Thor, Justice League, and Coco. And then finally, rounding out the year on Damn You Hollywood is Star Wars The Last Jedi and Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. So
wow,
that's all I
am
got.
not looking forward to anything in November or December. Oh, come on. Wait, hang on. Are you genuinely looking forward to any of those from those last 2 months? Apart from Star Wars, I know you're a fan.
Well, Thor.
That's fair.
What? I'm looking forward to Thor.
You mean Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
Yes.
Minus the music.
Coco doesn't necessarily tickle my cockles. I mean, I think my kids will have a good time with it. My wife, it's one that my wife wants to see, so we'll see how good or bad it is. I mean, it's Pixar. How bad could it possibly be?
That's fair, but no, I've mentioned this before. I saw the first trailer for Thor Ragnarok, and I was done. I was just done.
Okay, well, we'll see how good or bad it is when we actually see it. As far as what else is going on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, yesterday, as I said before, I was obnoxious.
No, really?
We covered Voltron from the ashes, and I basically told Jesse and Ronnie Adams that Voltron was the greatest thing of my childhood, and if you didn't watch it, then your life was deprived.
I don't think I watched Voltron when I was a kid.
Well, then you were deprived and clearly a communist. Tomorrow night on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we'll be reviewing Goat Whore, Ronnie Adams' favorite band. That's a lie. Vengeful Ascension, but it's fun to say, especially when Ronnie's around because he's like way Christian. And then, as I said before, Voltron Season 3 Part 1 will be on this Thursday. Next week, we will be doing our summer wrap-up special, and the Metal Hammer of Doom will be reviewing Accept the Rise of Chaos. That's really all I have. We've been running hard. We've been running heavy here in the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Frankly, I could use a break. So only 2 live shows next week. 2 live crew, 2 live shows. But the following week, we have all kinds of kit and caboodle going on. We've got Daredevil, Guardian Devil. We've got Defenders. I guess that'll be me and you again, right?
One would assume.
Okay. We'll have a TV party tonight for the Defenders. Metal Hammer of Doom will be reviewing the new KMFDM, Doing It Again, A Treat for the Freaks, Truth or Dare, How Low Can You Go, We Don't Care. And then finally, On Trial will be back for the month of August. We'll be looking at Daredevil. I will be prosecuting, and Sean will be defending. Ha ha, he he, ho ho, it is to laugh. That's all I got.
There's nothing defensible about that movie. Nothing.
It's not as bad as you're making it out to be.
It's as bad as I'm making it out to be. The only saving grace for that movie was the subplot involving Coolio as a heroin addict that Matt Murdock is trying to help out.
Stop it. not that bad.
Alternatively,
Jennifer
Michael
Garner.
Clark Duncan does a decent enough job as Kingpin, but would be completely upstaged by Vincent D'Onofrio years later.
All right, I will give you this: the Jennifer Garner stuff is god awful, but the rest. I mean, you know who's really hilarious in that movie and saves it? Colin Farrell as Bullseye. It's fucking hilarious.
Look, when Colin Farrell is saving your movie, you have failed miserably. That's all I'm saying.
All right, do your plugs. Or I throw up all over the place.
How about I do my plugs and you throw up all over the place? Why does it have to be an either-or proposition?
Obviously.
And now you're just desperate again. That's sad. That's sad. You're better than that.
Obviously.
I set you up for that one. All right. Last Sunday, there was the 411 Ground and Pound radio show. We reviewed UFC Fight Night 114. It was a show. That's about all I got there. I actually get pretty much the rest of the month of August off.
Yay!
There is not another UFC event for the whole month.
When is Struve versus Volkov?
September 2nd.
Oh, okay. Good for you.
Well,
Let's just
not
take August
really.
off. Okay.
And here's why not really. The UFC is not having another event during the month of August, mostly to make way for the monstrosity that is Mayweather-McGregor.
Woo!
Don't woo this, Mark. Don't.
Woohoo!
There is nothing remotely defensible about this. Nothing.
Oh my God! There's everything defensible about this. I love a parade. Here, send in the clowns. Look, it's a dancing bear.
So I expect a similar reaction once they announce Jones versus Lesnar for mid-2018?
No. If anyone within the sound of my voice loves Brock Lesnar and doesn't want to see him get hurt, do not let him take that fight. No.
Oh, they're going to make that fight. I guarantee it.
No.
Barring
No,
physical injury to either man, the potential revenue generated by Jones versus Lesnar is something the UFC desperately needs, and they'll do it.
Someone kick Brock Lesnar down a flight of stairs.
Because that would end so well for them.
Brock Lesnar falls the right way down a flight of stairs. He ain't getting up anytime soon. It won't matter.
Because then Vince will send somebody to break their legs for depriving him of a meal ticket.
I hope. Okay, there are 3 guys involved in the SummerSlam match with Brock Lesnar. One of them is Joe. Joe, you know what to do. I will send you the signal. It'll go like this. Whoop, whoop, woo, 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 woo. Waka, waka. Zoom. Hello there. If you hear me give you the signal, you know what to do. Take Lesnar out. Make sure he's not available for any fight against John Jones.
No.
Here, I'll do the signal again.
It's happening. But
no.
The point there is August 26th.
No.
Mayweather versus McGregor.
Yay.
No. Mark,
See,
serious question here. Why are you so
Yes,
in
sir.
favor of stupid people being separated from their money in large quantities?
Why not? I enjoy a good spectacle. Look, I don't care what happens to Floyd Mayweather. I don't care if he gets his head knocked off. He won't. But, it doesn't matter. His physical well-being matters not to me. Okay? Same thing with Conor McGregor. He could have his head knocked off, probably, and it affects my life none. I love Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is one of my heroes. I don't want to see him get decimated by John Jones. I have a dog in that hunt.
But anyway, millions of dumbasses will spend $100 to watch Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. Those two aren't even going to fight. No, here's what I think happens. This is not a joke. They get to the ring, they jaw jack, McGregor takes a knee. In the first round, they both hug, laugh at everyone stupid enough to have bought this. and then dance all the way to the bank with their arms around each other.
I was going to say, link arms and skip on out of Vegas.
Yes. I mean, I've said this on other podcasts. I imagine that those two were stuck on a flight together that showed the great white hype. They looked across the aisle at each other and went, hey, man, we can do this.
This only works one way. If Ice Cube sings them out of the raps them out of the Las Vegas to the tune of "It Was a Good Day."
I don't know. This is a con job. This is a fleecing, and people are just I don't know.
I'm gonna go to a friend's house and watch it.
The point there is there's a very high likelihood that I will be covering that on the 26th.
Oh, you poor bastard.
Dude, do you have any idea how much web traffic that farce is going to generate? Someone is going to cover that.
A lot. Yeah, but why does it have to be you? Why does it have to be me? Why does it have to be anybody? Get Larry to do it.
No.
Tell him to take a break from Japanese wrestling and go cover the Conor McGregor boxing match.
The Japanese wrestling is more legitimate than Mayweather-McGregor. I wouldn't wish this on too many people.
We are down to 3 minutes and a
I know.
review is dropped.
The point there is the 411 Ground and Pound radio show might be back on the 20th to do a preview of Mayweather-McGregor. I don't think that'll happen. It will be back the 27th where we will almost certainly unpack the insanity that was Mayweather-McGregor and then preview Fight Night 115.
Let me ask you a question. Will your podcast previewing McGregor versus Mayweather be unlistenable?
Absolute shite, crap, feces.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I have so little interest in that encounter.
How about that?
You're trying to inject levity into this, and it's just not working.
It is for me. I'm laughing like an idiot over here, obviously.
All right. So again, the point there. I don't have coverage for, again, I think I will be covering Mayweather-McGregor on the 26th, but I don't have anything else until then. I might on the 22nd, because we don't have a show here, cover the Tuesday Night Contender Series. So that might be a thing. In all likelihood it will be. Then there's that, back to 27th. Yeah, I get a significant break during the month of August. So, again, I don't really have a lot. Tomorrow I will be in Fact or Fiction in the MMA Zone of 411mania.com. So give that a read. Vote for who you think won.
All right.
I think
for
that's
Robert
it.
Winfree. For me, obviously. This has been Damn You Hollywood. This is our last
Mark, I'm
Yes.
going to mandate that you find a new best thing that you love more than anything in the world by Thursday.
Obviously. It makes me so happy to say that, just to hear you. I could hear your eyes roll.
I didn't roll my eyes, actually.
All right, for Robert Winfree, for myself, this is our final review of the summer, and boy, was it a doozy. We'll be back next week with a wrap-up. Until then, be well, be safe, and behave.
And now, insurance-minded speeches from Geico.
Hardship. My grandmother would go through it every month to pay her insurance bill. First, she would handwrite a paper check, in cursive. Then, using her own tongue, she would wet a stamp for an envelope. Today, however, we need not weary our hands and tongues. Today, we can pay our Geico bill with the Geico app. Away with hardship, in with bill pay on the Geico app. Thank you.